Hey guys, tonight we're heading into the smoky, crumbling heart of old Paris, not to stroll its candlelit boulevards or sip wine by the Seine, but to climb into chimneys. That's right. Narrow, soot-choked flues barely wide enough for a child's shoulders, snaking up through crooked townhouses under a sky so dark it feels like velvet pulled over your head. You're a night worker, a shadow, a chimney sweep. It's past midnight, and you're already awake. Not that you really slept. Your bed is a loose pile of rags behind a bakery, and your pillow smells faintly of fish. The air is cold, the kind that sinks into your fingernails. Somewhere across the river, Notre Dame tolls one low bell. Time to move. You haul your bundle of brushes, ropes, and soot sacks over your shoulder and begin climbing the fire escape of a lopsided building in the Marais. It groans under your weight, as if protesting this little dance you repeat every night. Your fingers are already blackened with yesterday's soot, permanent grime that no amount of scrubbing can undo. On the rooftop, your boots crunch on old bird bones and loose tiles. Wind nips your ears. You're invisible up here. A ghost. Below, the city dozes. Lamps burn behind heavy shutters. A cat darts across the roofline. Somewhere, a baby cries, and someone curses back. All of it muffled, as if Paris is tucked under a heavy quilt. You stretch your back and eye the chimney stack. It leans slightly left. Great. Leaners are unpredictable. You mutter a curse your old master used to spit and slide the brush down first. Your first climb of the night is slow. You wriggle in like a salamander, ribs scraping brick, soot loosening in soft clouds around you. It's warm from earlier fires. You feel it in your chest, the thick, itchy warmth that makes you cough a little too often lately. It's always been dangerous, this job. You knew that even before you could spell chimney. You'd heard about the boy who got stuck and suffocated near the Place Dauphine, or the one who fell straight through into a lit fireplace. They say his scream lasted just 2 seconds. You probably won't survive this job either. Not if the soot doesn't get you. The falls will. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always nice to know who's out there, drifting off while I talk about dying in a chimney. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You scrape your way down, knees braced, one hand guiding the brush. The soot's clumping. This one's overdue. A rat scurries just below you, a small furry blur vanishing into a brick crevice. You breathe slowly through your scarf, eyes stinging. This particular job's for a seamstress. She lives alone and can't risk a chimney fire ruining her fabrics. She's left a single copper coin wrapped in paper on the hearthstone. That's how you'll be paid, assuming she remembers, assuming you make it. You hit a bend. The worst kind. Sharp, L-shaped. Some chimneys have actual ladders built in. Not this one. You brace yourself and pivot, scraping sideways until your shoulder finds daylight. You cough once, twice. The soot's got that sharp, metallic edge tonight. almost peppery. Historians still argue whether the coal used in 18th century Parisian homes was imported from England or mined closer to home. But whatever this one is, it burns dirty. You drop to the fireplace with a soft thud. The seamstress's cat watches you from the table, unblinking. You give it a nod. It flicks its tail. The hearth glows with cooling ash. You dust off your knees, collect the coin, she wrapped it in a prayer note, and head back the way you came, out through the flue, up onto the roof. Up here again, you take a breath, or try to. The sky is just starting to fade from coal black to deep blue. Another chimney looms 3 rooftops away, smoke curling from it in lazy spirals. You've got 11 more tonight, maybe 12, depending on your legs, depending on your lungs. A gust of wind rattles the slates. You check your rope, tighten your scarf, and leap the gap. Paris holds its breath beneath you. You land with a soft grunt on the next rooftop, a wider, flatter one, patched with broken tiles and a few tufts of chimney grass sprouting where no grass should. You let your knees absorb the impact, then crouch, listening. Somewhere below, a carriage rattles over cobblestones, heading who knows where at this ungodly hour. You wait until it fades, then shuffle toward your next target. A broad double flue with rusted cowls that moan faintly in the breeze. The brushes for this one will need a different angle. Bigger width, older brickwork, and from the smell, someone burned wet wood last night. Fantastic. You take your time adjusting the rods, snapping them together like a grim little puzzle. It's one of the few moments in this job that feels yours alone. This ritual with soot and steel and tension. But you're not the only one up here. From the corner of your eye, you spot a flicker of movement. 2 silhouettes clambering over the roof ridge, younger than you by a few years at most. Apprentices. That means their masters nearby. You sigh. It's about to become a hierarchy game. In the world of chimney sweeps, rank matters more than name. There's the sweep master at the top, usually missing teeth and patience. Beneath him, senior boys who've lasted longer than 5 winters. Then the juniors, like you, who do the actual crawling, scraping, and sometimes falling. Below even them are the cinders. Newbies so green they still ask if the soot gets in your ears. It does, and it itches for days. The 2 kids spot you and freeze. You give them a nod. One nods back. The other just stares, clutching his bundle like it might run off. You've been that kid. Stomach growling, knuckles raw, unsure if this job is some kind of punishment or just a fact of life. The hierarchy doesn't end on the roof. Back at the sweep yards, if you're lucky enough to have one, there's a pecking order for everything. Who gets the bread crusts? Who gets the blanket? Who gets to sleep inside when it rains? And who gets a kick in the ribs for coughing too loud? You remember the first night your master let you carry your own brush. He said nothing, just handed it over like a weapon, then walked off. That was the closest you got to a promotion. Historians still argue whether these chimney sweep networks operated like formal guilds or more like underground labor gangs. Some claim records exist of structured wages and rotation charts. Others say it was entirely off the books, especially at night, when most jobs were hush-hush, often paid in candles or old bread. You straddle the flue and begin your descent. This one's colder, unused for a day or two, which makes the brick dust drier, lighter. It stings your eyes less, but the dryness means more flaking. You brush steadily, humming a tune under your breath. It's one of those little Parisian tavern melodies, the kind you overhear through a cracked window and can't forget for days. Halfway down, you pause. There's a metal obstruction wedged into the bend. Not uncommon. Sometimes it's an old damper, jammed halfway open. Sometimes it's worse. Dead birds, old boots, once even a pigeon skeleton wrapped in string. Tonight, it's a pot lid. You laugh softly. Someone dropped it during a cooking disaster, and no one ever bothered to retrieve it. That pot lid now lives in the chimney forever, a sort of soot-covered monument to burned stew. You wedge it free with your rod and keep going. By the time you emerge from the fireplace, the room smells like wax and salt. Someone was drying fish here. Your stomach lurches. You wipe your face and peer around. No one's home, but a note's pinned to the mantel. Merci. Do not forget my cellar job next week. You pocket it. Another coin for another flue, eventually. Back on the roof, the city feels different. Louder somehow. Maybe it's the shifting wind, or maybe you're just awake enough now to notice the rhythm beneath everything. A cart creaks, a baker sings, somewhere a door slams in anger. All above the soft, familiar wheeze of other sweeps hauling gear, scrabbling for footholds, haggling for better routes. There's competition, always. If you're too slow, another sweep might grab your client. You've had it happen before. You showed up to the baker's chimney and found a boy your age inside, already finishing the job. He claimed it was a mix-up. You claimed it with your fist. He left with a bloody nose, and you didn't get paid anyway. There's no real honor code up here, just rooftops and soot, and the hope that when the master counts heads tomorrow, yours is still attached. You glance back across the tiles. The two apprentices are gone now, vanished like chimney smoke. Somewhere out there, they're learning the same truths you did. There's no ladder here that leads anywhere but up a flue or down into more soot. And no one cares about the boys who vanish, unless they clog a chimney. The sky glimmers faintly in the east. You've got time for one more flue before the city stirs. You pick up your tools and move. This next chimney doesn't belong to a crooked townhouse or a rat-riddled bakery. No, tonight's third flue is something else entirely. You cross a series of slick, slanted roofs, your boots slipping once, just enough to spike your heart rate, before you catch the gutter. Then you crouch, panting, behind a marble gargoyle. The thing grins at you like it knows something. Maybe it does. Beyond it, tall and out of place in the moonlight, looms the silhouette of a royal residence. Not the palace, mind you, not Versailles proper, but one of its Parisian satellites. A smaller noble estate. Ornate, icy, lit by gas lamps you're not allowed to touch. Because yes, even places with chandeliers need their chimneys swept. The nobility aren't lighting hearths with rolled-up newspapers. They burn logs of scented oak and toss orange peels into the flames because it's rustic. You get to scrape the consequences. You pause before climbing higher. Jobs like this require delicacy. You weren't exactly invited, but a footman you know gave you a quiet nod earlier in the week. Said his mistress's drawing room chimney had been smoking again. Said it was worth £1, real coin, not bread. So now here you are, scaling wealth like a burglar, hoping no one looks up. Historians still argue whether royal homes had official night sweeps on the payroll or simply paid hush-hush freelancers like you. Either way, no one talks about it, and they certainly don't write it down. The brick here is different, whitewashed, smooth, and old. Rich soot clings to it like velvet. You run your fingers along the edge. Even the grime is posh. You lower yourself into the flue slowly, carefully, like you're invading someone's lungs, which you sort of are. It smells of perfume, burnt pine, and long dead roses. You cough. Something catches in your throat. You press on. Halfway down, you spot a strange shape tucked in a corner. Not soot, not brick, fabric. Someone's glove? You nudge it free with your rod, and it floats down past you. Velvet, blue, a woman's. It lands on a cold grate in a fireplace bigger than your entire sleeping space. Gilded, embossed. There's a lion carved into the mantel. You blink. You've seen this room once, years ago, when your master dragged you through the servants' entrance for a different job. It's warmer now. Candles flicker behind thin curtains. You slide out of the chimney and touch the floor with caution, trying not to make noise. That's the other rule of noble flues. Be invisible. As you clean the hearth, you notice a mirror nearby. Full length, polished. You glance up and catch your own reflection. Yikes. Soot smears your nose. Hair like straw. Shirt with more holes than buttons. You've got the look of a haunted scarecrow who lost a fight with a coal cart. You give yourself a mock salute and head for the chimney again. But not before you leave something small. Your signature. A thumbprint, high on the mantel, just above eye level. Not for pride, just proof you were here. Back on the roof, the wind has picked up. It pulls your scarf sideways and whistles through the stonework. You crouch low to stay out of sight. The city stretches in every direction. The Seine glints below, lazy and dark. Paris doesn't look like the city of light from up here. It looks like a beast, coiled and breathing in its sleep. You pause to snack. A hunk of hard bread from your pocket. It tastes like roof tiles and hope. You chew slowly, watching clouds drift over the moon. Did you know that chimney sweeps were occasionally invited to Versailles to clean the massive kitchen flues? No joke. The palace burned so many fires, it created its own indoor weather. Steam storms, grease avalanches. Once, a sweep got stuck halfway and had to be pulled out by soldiers using ropes and curses. You finish your bread and shake the crumbs into the wind. The glove still lingers in your mind. You wonder how it ended up there. A lost token? A discarded secret? You'll never know. You wipe your hands on your trousers and head for your next job. The rooftops creak beneath you, but you're used to that now. It's all part of the dance. You leap to the next ledge, and the city swallows you once more. Your stomach growls again, loud enough to spook a pigeon off the roof nearby. You ignore it. Fourth job of the night. This one's supposed to be easy. Supposed to. It's a modest place, the kind of place where someone's always up too late or too early. A cobbler's workshop, tucked between two leaning homes in the Latin Quarter. You recognize it by the smell, leather, smoke, and regret. The chimney is squat and narrow, like someone stuffed a bread oven into a dollhouse. and unfortunately, it's been neglected. You can tell because there's moss growing on the cowl. Moss on a chimney. That's like finding weeds in your bed. You drop down and knock once, softly. It's a courtesy, not a requirement. Sometimes people get spooked by things moving in their flue at 3 a.m. Not this guy. He just grunts. That's your cue. You slip down and feel the temperature shift halfway through, suddenly warm and greasy. Someone's been using this hearth as a cook fire, too. You mutter a few curses under your breath, trying to keep your scarf up. Your eyes sting. You press on. You land in a small, cramped room with 3 mismatched chairs and 1 boiling pot. The cobbler's asleep in one chair, snoring into his elbow. A slice of cheese rests uneaten on a wooden board. You stare at it like it's a golden chalice. You don't steal. Well, you don't usually steal. But you do borrow from time to time. And right now, your body says yes. The cheese is dry but edible. You eat half and leave the rest exactly where it was. It's a fair trade, really. You just prevented this guy from dying in a chimney fire. Historians still argue how many fires were caused by unclean chimneys in pre-Haussmann Paris. But let's just say, enough to justify free cheese. You clean the flue thoroughly. Soot comes off in great black sheets, like the city's peeling skin. You load it into your sack, tie it shut, and sling it over your back like a sooty Santa. The cobbler stirs, but doesn't wake. You consider leaving him a note. Your cheese saved a life. But decide against it. Back on the roof, your belly feels slightly better, even if the air is still trying to slice your ears off. You pause to rest by a chimney crown, letting your legs dangle over the edge of the eaves. Below, you see the flicker of a night patrol. Long coats, heavy boots, swinging lanterns. Best not to be spotted. You duck behind a chimney and trace the path to your next stop. But your fingers pause on the slate. Something shifts. A shadow moves to your right. You tense, but it's just another sweep. Older, with a big scarf wrapped over half his face and soot on the inside of his boots. That's how you can tell he's real. Pretenders never get the soles dirty. He nods. You nod back. You don't exchange names. You never do. Instead, you gesture at the stack he just finished. He shrugs, then points at the sack slung over his shoulder. Bigger than yours. He must be working the bakeries tonight. That means more soot, more pay, and usually more burns. You give him a mock salute. He gives you a tired wink and disappears over the ridge. Funny how quiet it is, considering how many of you are up here. Did you know that in some parts of the city, kids used to play a game called Le Saut du Diable, the Devil's Jump? They'd leap between rooftops, chimney to chimney, pretending to be sweeps. Ironic, really. Most sweeps never jump unless they're desperate. Or falling. You check your fingers, black with soot. Your arms ache. The bread and cheese in your stomach is settling like stone. But you're 4 jobs in and still breathing. That's something. And there's a strange comfort to it, too. The rhythm. Climb. Scrape. Descend. Climb again. You think of it as a kind of prayer, one that ends in bruises. You take a final glance at the cobbler's chimney, now billowing gently with clean smoke, and set off across the tiles once more. Only 11 more to go. You hear it before you see it. A high, sharp whistle that slices through the early morning hush like a knife across parchment. It's your master. You freeze. Not because he's close. He never bothers climbing roofs anymore. But because that sound means hurry up or someone else gets your pay. Or worse, you're late and now you're cleaning the latrines at sunrise. You shuffle sideways, boots scraping slate, and duck under a jutting dormer window. The rooftop maze you've memorized over months comes alive in your head. 3 chimneys east, drop into the alley, quick ladder behind the fishmongers, and you'll reach the 6th job by the time the bells ring 3. The master's whistle is a constant. Some nights you dream of it, curled on your rags, hearing that shrill note before waking with your hands still clenched around invisible brushes. He doesn't speak much, never asks questions, just whistles. High if you're late, 2 short ones if he wants your soot sacks, and once, a triple note that meant someone fell. You never found out who. Down below, a dog barks. You glance across the roofline and catch another glimpse of your master's shape, silhouetted near a chimney. He's tall and rail-thin, like someone stitched together out of rope and scabs. Wears the same coat every night, so soaked with soot it's gone stiff. People whisper he used to be a cathedral sweep, back when Notre Dame burned fires in over 20 hearths. Clean the devil's own flues, someone once said. You make your way to him now, not because you want to, but because not answering the call means being forgotten for jobs for the next 2 nights. And if you don't work, you don't eat. It's a very simple system. Brutal, but simple. Too slow, he mutters when you approach. His voice is gravel wrapped in tobacco. You say nothing. Just hold out your sack. He weighs it in one hand, grunts, then hands it back and points toward the north. Your next chimney. No thank you. No praise. Just a direction. And you go. Historians still argue whether sweep masters had actual written contracts with clients or operated more like shadow brokers, distributing jobs in exchange for loyalty and a cut. In your case, it's definitely the second. There's no paperwork, no names, and no one who'll back you up if something goes wrong, which it often does. You climb back to your usual rhythm. The next flue is narrow, cracked, and smells faintly of roasted garlic. You brace yourself and lower in, scraping elbows against the brick. You always go slowly on the first push. That's when accidents happen. Halfway down, you hear a scraping noise below you. Another sweep? No, just rats. Probably. Still, your shoulders tense. You hold your breath and push the brush with a steady rhythm. Down, twist, scrape. Down, twist, scrape. Soot rains down in soft plumes, settling in your collar and ears. Your thoughts drift. You remember the first time you saw someone get stuck. It was a boy barely 10, trying to clean a flue that narrowed at the base. He slipped, panicked, and wedged in tight. The master didn't even blink, just said, "Pour water down, he'll shift." You never forgot the sound that boy made when the cold hit him, or the sound he didn't make after. Back in the present, you make it to the bottom and land on an uneven hearthstone. The room is dark, lit only by the embers of an old fire. Someone has left out a cup of wine. You stare at it, consider it, decide against it. Climbing drunk never ends well. You did that once. Nearly broke both wrists falling into a laundry basket. Instead, you chalk your mark near the base, one line, one cross, then begin your ascent. Your body knows the drill now. Legs push, hands pull. Dust coats every inch of you like a second skin. Once back on the rooftop, you find a sliver of shelter beside a chimney crown and allow yourself a minute to sit. Not rest, just not move. You close your eyes and feel the city hum below. Life is stirring. The chimneys are breathing again. Suddenly, the whistle again, long and low. This time it's not for you. Somewhere else, another sweep's getting called to account. You hope it's not the one who gave you the crust of bread last week. You liked him. You get up, shoulder your tools, and step carefully back into the wind. The sixth chimney of the night is the worst kind. Used recently, not cleaned in weeks, and owned by someone cheap. You can tell the moment you get close. The flue is warm, not cozy warm, but angry warm. The kind of heat that seeps through bricks and makes you question your life choices. There's no moonlight anymore, just a murky blue haze spreading across the rooftops. Paris is beginning to stir, but not enough to save you from this job. You lower your tools carefully, knotting the brush tight. The chimney lets off an ominous tick-tick sound, like it's cooling down just enough to burn someone at random. That someone is usually you. You crouch over the opening and sigh. Here we go. The descent is instant discomfort. The air inside is thick, sticky, heavy, saturated with soot so fresh it feels like it's still cooking. Every motion sends up a puff that clings to your eyelids. You breathe through your scarf, which is already damp and not particularly effective. Scrape, twist, drag, cough. You repeat the rhythm, mind going fuzzy. Halfway down, you pause and rest your forehead against the cool brick. Not that it's actually cool, but it's cooler than the inside of your skull right now. You think, briefly, about the paradox of your work. You exist to prevent fires. You sweep the chimneys to keep the soot from building up into a deadly clog that can catch flame and burn a home down from the inside out. And yet, every move you make, every brush you drag, every spark of metal on brick is a gamble. You've started fires before. Everyone has. Historians still debate how often 18th century fires in Paris were caused by faulty chimney cleaning versus sheer neglect. The city archives suggest thousands of incidents, but it's hard to track when everyone involved is technically invisible. And the guilt never leaves you. That one time, 2 years ago, the fire on Rue des Archives, you weren't even sure your brush had caused it, but you remembered the family yelling, the smoke, the little girl in the window. You didn't go back to that part of town for a month. Tonight's flue groans. You stop mid-scrape. Did it just shift? You hold still. Listen. Nothing. Just the sound of your own breathing and the delicate flake of soot settling on your lashes. You whisper a quick insult to the chimney, something about its mother being a baker's oven, and carry on. Eventually, you reach the hearth. A tiny parlor, furniture crammed close. No one's awake. You step onto the rug and leave soot in the shape of your feet. You don't bother wiping it off. There's a basket nearby with something that smells like stewed carrots. You peek in. 2 turnips. Not worth stealing. Not even worth pretending to admire. You turn to go, but a creak stops you. From behind a curtain, a voice. "You done, boy?" An old man, barely visible in the dark, but very much awake. You nod, unsure whether to speak. He spits on the floor and gestures toward the chimney. "Next time, clean quieter." You nod again. Quiet's not your specialty, but survival is. You climb out the same way you came, limbs aching, soot clinging like guilt. Your sack is heavier now. This chimney was full of the chunky, dangerous kind. The kind that kills quietly. Back on the roof, you catch your breath and watch as smoke curls lazily from the flue. Harmless now. You try not to think about what it looked like 30 minutes ago, or what might have happened if you'd slipped. You sit for a moment. Your lungs ache, not from effort, but from years of this. There's a gravelly edge to your breath these days. You've seen it happen to the older boys. One day they're climbing. The next, they're coughing blood behind a fish stall. Some sweep yards, bring in street doctors, men with powders, potions, and hands that shake. They'll tell you it's the damp, or the soot, or your attitude. Either way, they charge more than you make in 2 nights. You stopped bothering. Instead, you chew licorice root. Someone once told you it keeps your lungs moist. Probably a lie. Still tastes better than soot. You stand again. Look around. The city's lighting up now. Thin streaks of light from cracked shutters, the muffled clang of bakery pans, and in the far distance, the rumble of carts on Rue Saint-Martin. Time for job 7. You mutter a promise to yourself, only 9 more, and leap the next gap. Paris yawns awake beneath your feet. You're starting to move like a ghost now, half aware, limbs running on soot and instinct. That soft fog of exhaustion is settling in, the one where your thoughts drift and loop and you almost forget what rooftop you're on. But your feet remember. They always do. The 7th job is odd. Not hard, just different. You're heading into a part of the city where houses lean too close together. Old buildings with eaves that almost touch, forming a kind of dark tunnel overhead. It's like someone tried to squeeze an entire neighborhood into a single alley and then forgot to leave space for sunlight or air. These houses are tall, many with garrets stacked like forgotten thoughts. And within them, chimneys that twist and turn like the intestines of a sick dragon. You climb onto the next roof, more carefully now. Slate here is cracked and loose. The air smells like mildew and bread flour. Below you, a bakery, probably already firing up for the day. But you're not heading in there. You've got a stranger route tonight. You follow a row of tiles toward a long, low chimney stack and drop to your knees beside it. This one doesn't vent straight into the street. It snakes sideways, then down, then sideways again, a layout designed by someone who hated both physics and chimney sweeps. You lower your rope and begin to descend. Halfway in, something shifts. Not the chimney. You. You suddenly realize you're not descending vertically. You're crawling horizontally, like a cat in a tunnel. You reach out and feel brick in front of you, above, beside. A flue like this shouldn't exist. But here it is, a secret horizontal corridor, barely a meter wide. And judging from the echoes, it connects several buildings. You inch forward. The soot is thick, undisturbed for weeks, maybe months. It puffs up with every motion, coating your face, your teeth, the back of your throat. You crawl slower, wondering what kind of chimney needs a tunnel. And then you hear it. Voices, very soft, muffled by distance, but undeniably human. You stop moving, heart thudding. Are you above someone's bedroom? Or somewhere worse? You edge forward. A faint glow appears ahead, filtered light from a vent. You peer down. Below you, a tiny attic room. 2 figures sit at a table. A candle flickers between them. Maps and papers are spread out. One of them gestures angrily. The other holds up a finger to quiet him. Spies? Thieves? Lovers? Historians still argue whether rooftop crawlways like this were used for secret meetings during revolutionary times. Some claim smugglers built them to avoid tolls and guards. Others say they were just the result of chaotic 17th century architecture. Either way, you've stumbled into the backstage of the city. You don't linger. Just long enough to see the taller man glance toward the ceiling, suspicious. You pull back, quiet as soot. You finish the route and emerge into a chimney that leads downward. The final drop is steep, but you brace yourself and slide. You land in a room that smells of herbs and paper. A healer's attic. You've done this one before. The woman who lives here burns dried lavender to hide the stink of her poultices. She also leaves you coins tucked in wax paper. You like her. Tonight, she's left you a note. Merci, petit fantôme. Leave the rats alone this time. There's a little drawing of a broom beside it. You smile. Just a twitch. Then clean the hearth, collect your coin, and leave through the vent she built just for you. She understands the life. Used to be a sweep herself, people say. Hard to picture now, with all her jars and herbs and fancy handwriting. Back on the roof, dawn is stretching across the horizon. Not full daylight yet, but the kind that makes the chimneys glow slightly. Ghosts of themselves in the half-light. You shake off the crawl dust and take a moment to breathe. That tunnel's still rattling around in your brain. What were they planning? Who were they? You'll never know. And somehow, that's comforting. You look to the next rooftop. It waits, just like always. The 8th chimney comes with a surprise. You don't notice anything unusual at first. It's another cramped rooftop tucked behind an apothecary with a chimney that leans west like it's trying to escape. The job was scribbled on your list in the master's handwriting. A job you didn't remember him mentioning, but you're too tired to question it. You kneel, check your brush, and start your descent. It's a clean chimney, suspiciously clean. Not spotless, but not what you'd expect from a place that burns wood nightly. The soot's dry, already disturbed. You pause. Someone's been here. You lower yourself slowly, boots barely grazing the brick. There's a breeze coming up the flue from below. That's odd. The hearth must be open. Then you hear it. a scrape, then another, and then a whisper, not from your own mouth. You freeze. A figure drops past you. It's fast, too fast. You flinch, bracing for a kick or a shove, but instead, boots hit the hearth below with a practiced thud. Whoever it is doesn't even stumble, just lands, smooth and silent. You hold still halfway inside the chimney, and squint downward. It's a girl. She's about your age, maybe a little younger, but she moves like someone who's done this for years. Short hair, soot-streaked face, dark eyes. She looks up, sees you, and smirks. "Oh," she says. "Didn't know this one was yours." You blink. She's dressed like a sweep, right down to the patched coat and fingerless gloves. Her sack is already half full, resting beside the fireplace. She's beaten you to the job. You drop the last few feet and land beside her. She shrugs, as if to say, "Too slow," and begins rolling up her brushes. "You with Marcel's crew?" you ask, voice rough from the soot. She laughs. "Marcel? That fossil? Nah, I freelance." You stare. Freelance chimney sweeps weren't unheard of, but usually they were old men, half-blind and working alone. Not, well, this. She notices your look. "What? Never seen a girl in the flues?" You open your mouth, close it. Then, "Just not one who smiles in them." She smirks again. "It's only because you look so miserable." You glance around. She's cleaned this chimney better than most boys on your crew could manage. Clean lines, ash evenly swept, even the mantle wiped down. You feel the strange twist of something like respect. "You want the coin?" she asks, holding up the paper-wrapped payment. "No, it's yours. You earned it." She eyes you, unsure if you're being sarcastic. You're not. Then she gives a little nod and pockets it. "You cover the next one?" she asks, already halfway up the chimney. "I've got the laundry shop across the square." You nod. "Yeah, I got it." And then she's gone, vanishing up the flue like a ghost. You stand there for a moment, blinking. It's not just that she was good, it's that she knew the routes, which means she's been working these rooftops for a while, under your noses. You wonder how many jobs she's taken from under your crew, how many chimneys you were too late to reach, and how many coins ended up in her coat pocket. You smirk. Good for her. Historians still debate the extent of female labor in trades like chimney sweeping during the 18th century. Official records are rare, especially for night workers. But oral accounts, local gossip, and the occasional brush with law enforcement suggest women and girls absolutely participated. Some disguised themselves. Others didn't bother. The soot hides everything. You clean the hearth anyway, just for your own sake. Not for pay, but out of habit. And maybe pride. As you rise, you notice something on the mantel. A thumbprint. Not yours. Smudged, faint, but deliberate. You chuckle. Cheeky. Back on the rooftop, Paris is stirring now. Smoke curls lazily from dozens of chimneys. The air smells like bread, coffee, and early sweat. A baby cries somewhere. A dog barks. The world is waking. You spot movement 2 roofs down. It's her again. She sees you watching and raises a hand, 2 fingers, half a wave, half a warning. Then she disappears down another flue. You shake your head and get moving. You've got 7 chimneys left, and 1 rival now, apparently. By now, your muscles have settled into that strange twilight zone between pain and numbness, the kind where everything aches, but you know it'll only get worse if you stop. So, you keep going, 1 flue at a time, 1 soot sack heavier than the last. You're deep in the heart of the 4th arrondissement now, where the rooftops are lower, but the chimneys are older, and that means they're nastier. Twists, cracks, mortar flaking like dead skin. You run a hand along 1 stack, and a chunk of brick crumbles into your palm. The 9th chimney is in a butcher's house, and that means exactly what you think it means. You pause outside the flue, staring down into the darkness, trying to decide whether to gag now or wait until you're crawling through it. Even before you slide in, the smell hits. Burnt fat, clotted grease, something vaguely bone-like. You grip the edges of the brick and mutter your favorite work mantra. It's only temporary, unless it's not. The brush doesn't want to move. Too much buildup. You press harder. Your shoulder pops with the effort. The soot here is mixed with drippings, thick and foul. You grimace. You've cleaned worse. Maybe. You think. The memory of that tannery flue from last spring tries to resurface, and you slam it back down. You finally make it through and drop to the hearth with a grunt. The butcher's kitchen is dark, but still warm. The coals are long dead, but the air is dense, like it's remembering meat. Everywhere, hanging tools glint faintly in the gloom. You take a step and immediately slip. You go down hard, elbow catching on the stone floor. You hiss in pain, but manage not to cry out. That would invite attention. You scramble up and see what tripped you. A bucket of offal, just sitting there. You look around. No one's awake. Good. You don't want to explain why you're face down in a puddle of mystery goo. You wipe your hands on your trousers and do a quick sweep of the hearth. No coin, of course. This guy never pays on time. There's a note scratched into the wall in charcoal. Next time, cleaner job. You leave your own note, written in soot on the underside of the mantel. Next time, pay first. Back on the roof, you sit and check your elbow. The scrape's shallow, but it's bleeding. You tie a rag around it and hope for the best. You're too tired to feel much about it anyway. Then comes the cough. Dry. Persistent. Crawling up your throat like it's made of sandpaper. You try to clear it quietly, but it echoes in your skull. You spit into the gutter. Dark flecks. Not good. You've heard of boys coughing themselves inside out. Chest infections that never left. Wheezing that got worse every winter. Some called it sweep's lung. Others just called it bad luck. Historians still argue about what medical knowledge existed among sweep communities. Some claim they used herbal poultices and soot teas. Yes, soot teas. While others insist that most injuries were treated with sleep it off, and maybe a punch to the shoulder for good measure. You've tried poultices. They just smell bad and attract flies. You rest a moment longer, fingers twitching. You remember one sweep, a street doctor's assistant, who told you to chew willow bark, said it helped with breathing. You did it once. It tasted like bitter mud and did nothing but make you hungrier. Now, you mostly just breathe slower, less. Try not to let the soot dig too deep. You hear a rustle nearby. For a moment you think it's the girl again, but it's just a cat, big, gray, one ear missing. It stares at you like it knows you're trespassing. You offer it a bit of crust from your pocket. It sniffs, turns, walks off in disgust. Figures. You check the sky. Pale blue now. No more stars. The sun hasn't cracked the horizon yet, but it's threatening to. That means you're nearly out of night. You rise slowly, every joint protesting. Your arms feel like lead. Your throat like ash. You wipe the sweat off your forehead, only to smear it with soot. 5 more, you whisper. Just 5. You shoulder your gear and walk toward the edge of the roof, where the next flue waits, puffing smoke like a sleepy dragon. The 10th chimney sits squat and wide above a bakery, the good kind, the one that fires up its ovens while the stars are still out, so the bread hits the shelves at dawn. You love this one. Not because the job is easy, it isn't, but because the smell is worth every bruise. As you lower yourself into position, the scent hits you like a warm slap, yeast, toasted flour, and cinnamon. It doesn't even smell like real food anymore. It smells like comfort, like everything good in the world was condensed into an invisible cloud and exhaled through a chimney. You take a moment to breathe it in, deeply, before the soot takes over again. This flue is large and oddly shaped. You remember it well. The ovens here are arranged in a triangle, so the chimney pulls from 3 separate fireboxes. That means 3 times the buildup, and 3 times the chance to get wedged if you aren't careful. You tie off your rope, anchor it to a vent pipe, and ease in. The soot here is soft, silky even. Less ash, more powder. You've learned the textures. Dry soot is safer. Oily soot sticks to everything and can reignite. This is bakery soot. The good kind. Still bad for your lungs, but better than butcher fat or tavern grease. You descend into warmth and darkness. Midway through the bend, you stop. Something's wedged just above the lower bend. You nudge it with your boot. A small wooden box. Curious. You shift it loose, and it tumbles down to the hearth. You follow. The bakery's kitchen is bright, already lit. A boy, maybe 10, is rolling dough on a flour-dusted table. He doesn't notice you until you cough. Then he gasps and grins. "You're back!" You blink. Then you remember. You've cleaned here before. The boy's name is Luke. He once snuck you a heel of warm brioche when his father wasn't looking. He gestures at the box you dislodged. "That's been stuck for weeks." You dust yourself off and tap the lid. It's scorched, but intact. Inside, a few wrapped sugar cubes and a little toy soldier. Luke shrugs. "I used to hide stuff up there. Papa didn't like it." You hand it to him. "Well, next time pick somewhere without fire under it." He giggles and nods. Then he disappears through the swinging kitchen door, shouting something about "the ghost's back." You clean the hearth quickly, more out of habit than necessity. These bakers keep their fires in order. But soot still settles, and the boss likes a clear flue. You leave your mark, thumbprint on the inside of the hood, and head back toward the chimney. Just before you climb, Luke returns. He holds out a linen cloth. Inside it, a small, warm loaf, still steaming. You hesitate. Your father, he's asleep. I baked it. You raise an eyebrow. He grins. Mostly. You take it. Thanks, little baker. Bye, ghost, he calls, waving as you vanish up the flue. Back on the rooftop, you sit against a chimney pot and unwrap the gift. The loaf is perfect, crusty, soft inside, with little raisins hiding in the dough like tiny buried treasures. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. Not because you're being polite, because it hurts to eat fast after so many hours of soot and breath-holding. As you chew, your thoughts drift, like they always do when the city starts glowing gold along the roof lines. You think about that story you once heard. Napoleon's secret sweeps. Supposedly, the emperor himself recruited a handful of skilled chimney boys to sneak through flues into enemy-occupied mansions during wartime. Sounded like a joke the first time. But then you heard it again, and again. Different names, same tale. Sweeps as spies, slipping in and out of houses, overhearing secrets, and relaying messages with chalk under slates. Historians still argue whether there's any truth to it. No real records, of course. But legends cling to soot just like everything else. You smile. You'd have made a good spy. You already go places no one else sees. Already wear a mask of dirt and silence. Already vanish by morning. You dust off the crumbs and sling your sack back over your shoulder. 10 jobs down, 4 to go. And for once, your lungs feel less tight. Your mouth tastes like bread instead of ash. You rise slowly. The wind curls around your coat like a curious ghost. Onward, you whisper. Paris is waking, but you're not done yet. You're lighter on your feet now. It's not that your body aches any less. It aches more, honestly, but that warm bread still clings to your chest like armor. Sweet, soft armor made of crust and raisins. The 11th job takes you to the edge of Rue du Faubourg Saint-Antoine. This is artisan territory, cabinet makers, tanners, glaziers, and a few places with no signs at all but smells strong enough to peel wallpaper. Your chimney sits above a small boulangerie, and you know this one, because she always leaves a coin and a smile. The baker's wife, tall, silver-haired, eyes sharp as hot coals. She runs the morning shift like a battlefield, precise, ruthless, but always with sugar tucked behind her ear. You crouch over the chimney crown, feeling the warm air rise through the flue. A good sign. That means the oven's already cooling, so you won't roast yourself like last time. The descent is smooth, mostly vertical, wider than average. The soot clings in long ribbons, easy to peel off with the brush. You're halfway down when the smell hits. Cinnamon, almonds, orange peel. You groan softly. It's too early to be hungry again. Or maybe not. It's been 8 hours since your first rooftop. You drop to the hearth gently and step into the kitchen like a soot-covered phantom. She's there, of course. Arms deep in dough, apron already streaked, hair tied back like she's preparing for war. She doesn't turn around. "You're late," she says. You grin. "Not by sweep standards." She waves a floury hand at the table. "Coins under the salt. Brioche is yours if you want it." You do. It's small, yesterday's batch, but still soft and warm from being near the oven. You pocket the coin and take the bread, careful not to drop soot into it. You lean against the warm brick and eat in silence while she shapes loaves with the elegance of a swordsman. "You still alive?" she asks after a moment. You shrug. "Just barely." "Then you're doing better than some. I heard a sweep got stuck in Montmartre last week." You nod. "I heard that too. His master cut the rope to free it." She snorts. "And left the boy?" You nod again. She shakes her head. "That's why I keep hiring you. You show up. You leave alive. Basic, but impressive." Historians still debate how much the public respected chimney sweeps. Some documents speak of them as necessary tradesmen, others as vermin. Kids threw stones. Some priests called them cursed. But then again, certain households swore by hiring the same sweep for generations, passing names down like family recipes. You finish your brioche and dust off your hands. She tosses you an apple, and you catch it without thinking. "Flue's clean," you say. She nods. "See you next week." Or don't. You climb back into the chimney. She's always like that, brisk, businesslike. But you once saw her crying when the neighborhood sweep broke his leg falling through a skylight. She delivered bread to his family for 2 months. You know her type. Paris is full of people like her, hard as burnt crust on the outside, soft beneath. Not many, but enough to make the job feel less like punishment. You emerge onto the rooftop again, blinking in the dawn light. Everything is pink and gold now. Rooftops glimmer with early sun, chimneys exhaling sleepy smoke. You stretch your arms overhead and feel every joint complain. Your elbow from the butcher's house, your knees from the long crawl in the attic maze, your lungs from everything. You take a slow breath and cough once. The echo bounces off the tiles. Then you hear the bells. Far off, down by the river, the boulangerie bells. Soft and clear. Someone's opening the doors. Time for the morning rush. You smile. There's something beautiful about knowing you were here before it all began. Before the city started shouting and horses clattered and shopkeepers swept their stoops. You were here in the quiet. You are the quiet. You shoulder your sack and make your way toward Job 12, boots silent on the warm slate tiles. Just a few more. By the time you reach the 12th chimney, you're no longer walking. You're floating. Not from magic, just pure exhaustion. Your legs move because they've memorized how. Your mind is somewhere else entirely. Maybe still in that bakery, or maybe on a rooftop from 2 years ago, where you once watched a thunderstorm roll in over the Seine like a slow beast. This next job isn't on your list. In fact, you weren't supposed to take it at all. You stand now on the rooftop of the Opéra de Paris, staring up at the enormous looming chimney stack. The big one. The one the older boys joke about, but never actually attempt. The one that supposedly drives you mad. You're not sure how you ended up here. Maybe it's the bread high. Maybe you're just chasing the girl again. You haven't seen her since Chimney 8, but her thumbprint still lingers in your mind. Or maybe, and this is the scariest possibility, you just want to know if the rumors are true. You step closer. The chimney is absurd. It's wide enough to fit a grown man upright, but it narrows as it descends, spiraling down through an ancient flue system installed before Napoleon was born. People say it bends 5 times. People say it hums. One boy claimed he came out of it blind in one eye. Another said he saw a man inside who wasn't really there. You scoff, but your hands are shaking. You could skip it. No one would know, but you're already tying your rope. The descent is instant unease. The walls are damp, not just from weather. This is a different kind of damp, like sweat from something alive. The brick smells old, real old. You slide down with your scarf high, eyes squinted, brush at the ready. The first bend comes quickly, a hard left. You twist your body like a corkscrew to follow it. Then a drop, steep, sudden. You barely manage to wedge your boot against a ledge to slow your fall. Another turn, then another. By the 4th, your breath is ragged, heart thudding. Then you hear it. Not a voice, not a whistle. A sound like singing, soft, off-key, in a language you don't know, but not echoing like a sound should in a chimney. This comes from beside you, inside you. You freeze. Historians still argue about the acoustics of the opera's original flue system. Some say it was so elaborate you could hear a whisper from the dressing rooms 5 stories below if you were standing in the attic. Others say that's all romantic nonsense. You'd argue for terrifying nonsense. You try to keep moving, brushing out soot mechanically now. Your hands feel disconnected from your body. And then, suddenly, light. You reach the fireplace and drop into a massive, velvet-curtained room. A music chamber, gilded mirrors. A harp in the corner. Empty. Mostly. You spin slowly, taking it in. There's a stool in front of the hearth. On it, a cup of cold tea. A spoon still resting inside, untouched. Someone was here. Maybe still is. You don't wait to find out. You clean the hearth quickly. The soot here is fine. Barely any buildup. Someone's already cleaned this chimney recently, but no one on your crew. Not that you know of. You chalk your mark anyway. Your way of saying, I made it. I saw. You move to climb the flue again and notice something carved in the brick. 3 initials. Deep. Not yours. Then, below them, a 4th set. Hers. The girl. You stare at the soot-stained letters, half smiling, half unnerved. So she's been here too, and came back out sane enough to mark it. That's good. Probably. You climb faster than you should. Your legs burn. Your arms shake. But when you hit the rooftop again, and the sky greets you with full morning gold, it feels like resurrection. You lie back on the tiles, arms spread, and laugh. Just once. Just enough to make a few birds startle off the chimney stack beside you. You survived the opera flue. Barely. And maybe, just maybe, you're not completely sane anymore either. But you've only got 3 more jobs. You can taste the end. You wipe your face with your sleeve and get up. And even now you swear. You still hear singing. The rooftops have changed since midnight. What was once a dark maze of chimneys and shadows has softened into a wash of pastel. Pale pinks, warm golds, that soft baby blue sky that only happens right before Paris wakes all the way up. You feel a little drunk on sunlight. Sleepy, soot-drunk, and maybe slightly unhinged from that opera flu situation. You haven't quite shaken the image of that cold teacup, or the feeling of being watched. But the 13th chimney waits. It's a rooftop bar. Well, not a bar in the modern sense. But the nobles who own this building host all-night roof soirees for their decadent friends. You've watched them from the shadows before. Men in powdered wigs and women in feathered cloaks giggling over champagne, tossing coins into the gutter to see if the poor scramble for them. And you do, sometimes, because those coins are real silver. This morning, the party's just ending. You crouch low behind a dormer window and peek out. 4 figures remain, laughing, stumbling. One's playing a lute terribly. Another is pouring the last drops of wine onto the tiles like an offering to the dawn. Their voices are slurred and musical, like birds that forgot how to fly. And one of them is tossing coins. He throws one high into the air. It arcs in the sunlight like a promise, and lands just a few feet from your boot. You hesitate. Do you go for it? Yes. Obviously, yes. You dart forward, snatch the coin, and duck back behind the chimney in one fluid move. No one notices, except one of them. A girl in a crimson shawl turns her head slightly, as if she felt your presence. She locks eyes with the shadow you've become. And then she smiles. Not scared, not startled, just amused. Then she raises her goblet, mock salute, and turns back to her friends. You wait a beat, then 2. Then move toward the chimney. This flue is used for the rooftop kitchen. Yes, kitchen. Because apparently, if you're rich enough, you demand scrambled eggs with your rooftop sunrise. You brace yourself for a grease-soaked descent. And you're right to. The brick is slick with duck fat. You nearly lose your grip twice. You mutter a steady stream of curses under your breath as you scrub down the flue, pausing only to wipe your hands against your thighs when the brush refuses to twist. Historians still argue whether these rooftop kitchens were practical or purely for show. But based on the smell, this one's seen a lot of roasted poultry. You reach the hearth, still warm, and clean the base quickly. The hearthstone has initials carved into it, looping and pretentious. Probably belonged to a duke who thought fire was romantic. You leave no mark here. You've learned not to tempt these people. They might trace it back. They might not appreciate your signature on their chimney. Better to stay invisible. Back on the roof, the party's ending. One noble is asleep in a pile of cushions. Another is attempting to play cards with a pigeon. You smirk and shake your head. Then someone calls, "Petit ramoneur." You freeze. It's the girl again. Crimson shawl. She's waving a silver coin at you like a flag. "I saw you," she says, not unkindly. You step forward slowly. No point pretending now. She tosses the coin. It lands with a soft clink near your boot. You nod in thanks. Say nothing. Words don't belong on rooftops like this. Try not to fall, she says with a smile. Then she turns away, and the nobles drift off, like birds that drank too much sunrise. You pocket the coin and head east. You're getting rich today, apparently, which is great, because your coat has 3 holes and your shoes gave up weeks ago. You wipe your hands again and squint at the next rooftop. 2 more jobs. You can feel the end now, like a breath held too long. Your lungs rattle softly, but you smile, because the city looks different now. And maybe, so do you. It's just past 7 now. The rooftops are no longer yours alone. Laundry women lean out their windows. Shopkeepers unlatch their doors. You pass under pigeons beginning their council meetings. The city is stirring, and you're still in the shadows, dodging sunlight like it owes you money. The 14th chimney belongs to an apothecary, and he always watches. You crouch on the ledge above his shop, peering down at the familiar green-glazed flue. It curls like a pipe, fat at the base, narrow at the top, always stinking of herbs and melted sugar. You've done this one 3 times now, and every time you swear it's alive. You lower yourself in slowly, wary. The brick is sticky. Some kind of syrup has oozed down the inner wall. You pray it's not rat-based. Midway down, you stop and listen. There it is. The soft clink of glass vials, the rustle of mortar and pestle. The apothecary's already awake. You groan internally. This man doesn't sleep, you're sure of it. He's like one of his own concoctions, bubbling, mysterious, and vaguely illegal. You reach the hearth and land with a soft grunt, boots hitting tile. The room is as you remember, shelves packed with jars, powders, bones, and something that might be pickled fingers. A fox skull stares at you from a windowsill. Ah, the soot ghost returns, says a voice behind you. You flinch. He's there, standing behind the counter in full daylight like a man who hasn't just slept 3 hours on a cot. He's got a beard like tangled rope and hands stained with saffron. You were due 2 days ago, he mutters, though not angrily. Wasn't on the list, you reply. Everything worth doing rarely is. You pause. The flu's a mess. Everything worth doing rarely isn't. You nod slowly, not sure if you're being complimented or cursed. You set to work. The flue is caked with strange ash, grayish-green, gritty, and almost sweet-smelling. You're not sure what he's burning, and you don't want to know. The brush sticks a few times, but you manage to clear the worst of it. As you clean, he brews something behind you. The air fills with the scent of boiling mint, vinegar, and orange peel. It makes your eyes water. Historians still argue whether early pharmacists used chimney systems to experiment with fumes, sending their trials skyward instead of down the drain. If they did, this guy is clearly still on that grind. When you finish, you wipe your hands and look around for the usual coin jar. It's not there. Instead, the apothecary sets down a bundle wrapped in waxed paper. For you, he says. You raise an eyebrow. Is it going to explode? Only if you boil it wrong. You unwrap it carefully. Inside, a small tin of salve, a packet of licorice root, and something that looks suspiciously like dried batwing. Thanks. He shrugs. You've been coughing. Figured I'd get ahead of it. You nod, touched. You've been watching me? I watch everyone. It's the only reason I'm not dead. You smirk and tuck the bundle into your sack. You leave your mark, faint, hidden in the soot-streaked corner of the hearth. I'll be back, you say. Of course you will. You're the only one who doesn't complain. You step into the flue and pull yourself upward. Back on the rooftop, the sun is rising with confidence now. It spreads warmth across the tiles, drawing out the scent of baked stone and old wood. You squint at the brightness. It feels unfair, somehow, that people are only just waking. You've been awake for an entire city's worth of filth. But then again, maybe that's the trade. You keep Paris breathing, and Paris pretends not to notice you exist. You take the final drag from your water skin, stretch your sore arms, and crack your back until something pops. You're running on crumbs and adrenaline now. One more chimney. Just one. You stare down the final rooftop like it's a mountain. It stares back. The 15th chimney doesn't look like much. It's short, crooked, tucked into the roof of a tailor's shop you've passed 100 times. No one talks about it. It doesn't appear on the master's map. It's not even marked with the usual chalk X's. But it's yours. Not because someone assigned it, but because you chose it. You've been saving it. A quiet flue, barely used. Just enough soot to make the job real, but not enough to hurt. It's your favorite kind. A soft ending to a long night. You step lightly onto the roof, the tiles warm under your boots now. Morning sun glints off the windows below. You crouch over the flue, take a breath, and begin your descent. The air here is still, not stale, calm. The bricks hum faintly with the memory of heat, like a fireplace that once held stories. You move slowly, reverently, brushing each section with gentle sweeps. Your arms ache, but you don't mind. You've earned this moment. Halfway down, you find a bird's nest. Empty now. Just twigs and a few soft feathers. You pause and gently nudge it aside, careful not to crush it. There's something poetic about it. Building a home in soot. Seems familiar. The base is clean. Someone's used this fireplace recently, but not often. The room it opens into is tiny. A sitting room, maybe. A place where someone comes to read or drink tea alone. There's a chair near the hearth, and on that chair, a coat. Not just any coat. A soot-stained one. The kind a sweep wears. You blink, and then you see it. On the mantel, a thumbprint. Hers. You exhale. She's been here. Maybe even claimed this spot the way you did. Maybe this is her final flue, too. You smile, more than a twitch this time. You clean the base quickly, brush off the edges, and leave your own mark beside hers. 2 thumbprints. Quiet. Equal. Back on the rooftop, Paris is fully awake. The chimneys all smoke in rhythm. Birds spiral above the rooftops. Carts creak on cobblestones below. Somewhere, a violin is being tuned behind an open window. You sit on the ledge, your soot sack beside you, and just breathe. It's over. 15 chimneys. A full night's work. Your arms tremble from fatigue. Your lungs scratch with ash. And your coat smells like fire and sweat and the sky. But you're alive. You made it. And now comes the part you love most. Not the pay, not the bread, not even the brief moment of pride. No, it's the descent, the final one. From rooftop to alley, from ghost to boy again. You climb down the back of the tailor's shop using the same route you always do. Drain pipe, window ledge, stack of crates. You land softly beside the bakery's wall. You settle in the usual corner behind the ovens, where the bricks are still warm and the wind can't reach you. And there, you finally lie down. You pull your coat tight, tuck your sack beneath your head, and close your eyes as the city rushes past you. No one stops. No one looks. But that's okay. Because Paris still stands, because its chimneys are breathing, because you were there, and no one ever has to know. Now that the soot has settled and the rooftops have turned gold, your body begins to slow. The ache in your knees softens into a dull hum. Your fingers loosen. Even the scratch in your throat eases, soot giving way to silence. Somewhere nearby, a window creaks open. A woman waters her herbs. A cat yawns from a windowsill. The city, awake. But you, finally drifting. Your head rests on warm brick. The kind of warmth that feels earned, not fire hot, but steady, like the end of a good story. You stretch once, then curl into your coat like a blanket. The wind brushes your cheeks, gentler now. Not cruel like it was hours ago on the slate rooftops. No, it knows you've done enough. The jobs are done. The flues are clean. The city can breathe again. And so can you. The thumbprint you left on that final hearth still lingers behind you. A quiet badge. A soot-kissed signature. A proof of life no one will see. Except maybe her. Your eyes grow heavy. And somewhere in the distance, the last rooftop rooster calls. Let it. Because for once, you don't have to move. You don't have to climb. You don't have to do anything but rest. So let the stories fade. Let the wind carry your name across the chimneys. And sleep, soot ghost. Sleep.